Mr. Roundtree, I think we are at 6:30, so I think we are good to go.
All right. Meeting is called to order at 6:30. If we would please rise, and Scott's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
allegiance and flag
to the United States of America, to the republic to which it stands, one nation,
nation,
under God,
God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for another day to gather as a group and to lead this great school corporation. Just watch over us and guide us to make the best decisions for our students and our staff and all external stakeholders. Be with and lay your hand on those who have suffered tragic loss, and watch over all of us, not only in the midst of the pandemic, but also with weather and just everyday life. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, roll call. Mr. Basham,
Here.
Ms. Franklin,
Here.
Ms. Overberg,
Here.
Mr. Groen,
Here.
and I am here. We have quorum. Mr. Brillhart, do you have any, or Dr. Brillhart, sorry, any emergency additions to the agenda?
Yes, sir. And before we get started, again, I want to thank everybody for obviously your flexibility of being able to conduct this virtually. And thank you to Beth and Jerry for helping get this set up. Rachel for your assistance as well. Beth will be kind of the guru behind the scenes here. So she'll be controlling everyone's mic as sought or as needed. So in the event, I don't anticipate we'll have issues, but then we have issues. Like I said, she'll be able to correct mic issues, from her side of the thing. So, but yes, we do have some emergency additions to the agenda. Those are all outlined in red. Obviously, the most significant one is this is being conducted via Google Meet. If you turn to page 3, we did add on reminder of upcoming events, executive board meeting for February the 18th. Of course, this Thursday, weather permitting, of course, we'll be meeting an executive session at Silver Creek Middle School at 5:30 in their GPR. And then under Finance A, we had a minor claim with one of our vendors that actually it was an incorrect billing from them. So instead of seeking out a credit, we just went ahead and basically deleted the old docket and fixed the docket to reflect that. It was $2,000 and change. It wasn't a big significant difference, but obviously that changed this claim docket between last Wednesday and today. So as you can see, there's a new amount there for the claim doc highlighted in red. Under classified appointments, we added C 3.8, and then under discussion action items, I just simply added, for clarity purposes moving forward, naming every resolution their correct numbers. So obviously the first resolution 2021 R3, the next resolution 2021 R4, the next resolution 2021 R5, and then the final resolution 2021 R6. And those are the only emergency additions to the agenda.
All right, you've heard the emergency additions to the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Groen makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Overberg? Seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. And then we just have approval of the minutes for one special work session, which was from February 1st, 2021. I would just ask the board to make the motion and second and approve those minutes from the special work session from February the 1st.
Tom, do we also need to approve the executive meeting minutes for February 4th and February 9th? That's on here as well?
Yeah, I mean, you can do them all in the same motion if you want. We can just, if you want to, that's perfectly fine.
I just saw one line for the approval. I got you. I guess it printed off center for me.
Yeah. But you can do it all in one motion. That's fine.
All right, we'll just keep it the way it is on the agenda. So
Okay.
we have a motion for approval of the minutes from February 1st, the special work session.
I'll make that motion to approve, Chris.
Mr. Basham makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Franklin seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Okay,
All right,
thank
next
you.
we also have the approval for the executive meeting minutes for February 1st, February 4th, and February 9th. We have a motion to approve.
I motion.
Ms. Overberg motions. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Groen seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. I'm going to try to go through the school reports and other items as quickly as possible, just for sake of time. So Silver Creek Primary, they're on letter I for initiative for their Pride winner. So they have an abundance of students that they would like to show recognition for the letter of I. So again, congratulations to those students. Silver Creek Elementary, Danielle Mitchell has been such an asset to Silver Creek Elementary this year. This year, we completed a virtual WIDA monitoring session with the IDOE. Danielle had all the necessary documents for this. She trained Silver Creek School Corporation testing administrators for the WIDA assessment and has completely scheduled and assessed all EL students at Silver Creek Elementary. So again, thank you so much for Danielle. Also at Silver Creek Elementary, they are also doing a Pride recognition for the second and third grade. And again, there's an abundance of students that got that recognition. So again, congratulations to them. We want to thank Brian Slade from Ecotech and Chris Rosio for his hard work and the donation of 20 trees for the Silver Creek Elementary campus. A lot of those have been planted, but there's an abundance that still have not been, just due to obviously the weather and everything. So again, thank you so much to Ecotech, Mr. Rosio, for his assistance with that. Silver Creek Middle School would like to recognize and congratulate our top Dragons for first semester. These students have been nominated by their teachers for displaying Dragon Pride and making choices that contribute to their success and success of those around them. These top Dragons were recognized in our Top Dragon ceremony, where parents and guardians can attend virtually. A special thanks to Ms. Granger and Mrs. Gerlach. So again, congratulations to the top Dragons. And Silver Creek Middle School would like to also thank Joe and Bev Basham for their many years of service coaching the Silver Creek Middle School cross country team. Their dedication and sacrifices have helped excel this program and greatly improve the facilities. And again, I second that, Mr. Basham. Again, thank you so much for you and your wife for your collective efforts over the years. Silver Creek High School on Thursday, Cooper Jacoby passed Steve Green for the second on the all-time scoring list with 1,412 points. Cooper now stands with his teammates Trey Kaufman-Wren as the top scorers in school history. Pretty unique. That's happened two years running, or 2 in 1 year running. So again, congratulations to both those gentlemen. Silver Creek High School girls basketball team also won the sectional on February the 6th. Congratulations to Coach Shane and his coaching staff. And of course, we are happy to announce that they also won regional this past Saturday. So congratulations to them. The semi-state game is this coming Saturday at 1 o'clock versus Tri-West at Jeff High School. Congratulations to the girls basketball team. Silver Creek High School Archery recently hosted a competition on February 6th. 18 Silver Creek High School students competed, and the team finished 3rd out of 9 schools. Congratulations to our archery team and sponsor Kyle Johnson and Tanya Shelton. And Silver Creek High School senior trip to Washington, D.C. has been canceled. Again, senior trip to Washington, D.C. has been canceled. Class sponsors are working with the senior class officer to plan an optional activity. So again, that has been canceled. And sadly, we didn't get this on the last board meeting agenda, but we did want to recognize and express our condolences to Josh Sinclair, our food service director at Silver Creek School Corporation, who lost his father recently here in the last couple of weeks to a bout with cancer. So again, our sincere condolences to Mr. Sinclair. Reminder of upcoming events: executive board meeting February 18th at 5:30, again at Silver Creek Middle School GPR. As of right now, we do not have an executive board meeting scheduled for March the 15th. Again, that could change obviously between now and then. And also on March the 8th is our first preliminary determination hearing at 6:30 at the Silver Creek High School GPR. And then on March the 15th, we'll have our second preliminary determination hearing at Silver Creek High School's GPR. Both of those are at 6:30. And then the regular scheduled board meeting will start immediately after that second hearing, same place, pretty much same time, Silver Creek High School GPR at 6:30. And there are no other events to announce. And at this time, I will turn it over to Mrs. Hawkins for her curriculum and student service report.
Good evening, everyone. Coming to you from my vehicle because it's the most quiet place I can find anywhere. So I'll start tonight with the Silver Creek spotlights. Silver Creek Middle School is excited to announce that we have obtained a PLTW Project Lead the Way grant from Mr. Luther to receive training for Computer Science Gateway program. Silver Creek Middle School currently meets the IDOE 2020 or 21-22 computer science requirements by including computer science in our curriculum. But with this training, Silver Creek Middle School will exceed the expectation by offering a true computer science course at SCMS in the fourth quarter called Computer Creator Apps. This grant will also cover training for Mr. Luther in computer science innovators and makers and will allow us to offer 2 computer science classes next year. So Silver Creek Middle School would like to give a huge thanks to Ms. Kate Brown for all of her help and support in obtaining this grant. At Silver Creek High School, Mr. Hankins students are part of an exciting pilot with Kumo Space. This unique curricular technology tool allows to use spatial audio software to collaborate cameras on in real time with their classmates in a simulated online classroom space. So something really neat that students are doing at Silver Creek High School. In another class at SCHS, Mr. Harrell's class, Principles of Engineering, students there have started to use the brand new VEX robotics kits that were recently purchased. These new kits are allowing our students to program, design, and build robots to perform a variety of tasks. So excited about those curricular things. Also want to give a shout out to our operations staff. We want to express our thanks to these folks for all of their hard work last week in getting the property cleared quickly from the snow and ice. This allowed the boys basketball team senior night to proceed as scheduled. Unfortunately, it looks like we're going to have to ask them to deal with bad weather again this week. And so we want to publicly let them know that their effort that they put into our campus is very greatly appreciated. So thanks to those folks. Also want to give a district committee update. We've got several different committees going on right now. So we'll start with the textbook adoption committee. So we have a great group of teachers, administrators, parents, and treasurers who are participating in this year's ELA World Language Adoption Committee. Our committee is currently in the evaluation of books phase, and we're still on track to make a recommendation at the April board meeting. The EL committee, the English learners, this committee will hold their first meeting on Thursday, February 25th at 3:30. The meeting will be virtual, and Mrs. Mitchell will be sending a calendar appointment with the Google Meet link and agenda within the next few days. So if you're someone that is signed up for that committee, you should be receiving that soon. The Mental Health Committee will hold their first meeting on Monday, February 22nd at 3:30 p.m. via Google Meet. That agenda has already been sent to to the committee members. So we're looking forward to getting together for our first meetings for those 2 committees here soon. The Assessment Committee, at the SCTA meeting on Thursday, February 11th, we discussed putting together a committee to explore an adaptive diagnostic or fixed benchmark assessment tool. So updates regarding this committee's progress will be shared at future board meetings. Summer school, a quick update on that. Silver Creek School Corporation is dedicated to student success, and in an effort to mediate instructional gaps, we will be offering summer school in grades K through 12. We're still finalizing those details and will be posting for teaching positions soon. The amount of students served and the criteria to attend are still being developed, and will be contingent somewhat on those teaching positions. So we'll provide another summer school update at the regular March meeting. And then just to tie this up tonight, e-learning. So teachers are working very hard to continue the educational process, and they are following the instructional rubric requirements during the current weather-related e-learning days. We appreciate the work that students and their parents helping the students to put in that work, but want to give a friendly reminder that it is extremely important that students plan to commit to the state requirements regarding their seat time. In accordance with the guidelines of the IDOE concerning student attendance during off-site learning, students may be considered absent if they are habitually failing to complete assignments, engage in instructional activities, or participate in other course responsibilities. So just a friendly reminder to make sure that kiddos that you log in, or parents help us to get your kiddos logged in so that they can still be engaged in school on these days off. Any of the board members have any questions for me tonight? I know that was a lot in the dark.
I'm good, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay.
Lisa, I do have one question for you. And I know you've been working really hard to get these committees set up, so I certainly appreciate your work. I think we had talked about also having an early childhood development committee as well. I didn't know where we kind of stood on that. I know we were addressing some issues and concerns that we had about some interventions that we might need to do. I was just wondering if we were still considering putting that committee together.
I have not talked to the SCTA about an early childhood committee, but if that's something that the board feels like that we need to pursue, I can definitely put that on the agenda and put together a group.
Yeah, I would like that.
Okay. Sure, no problem. I'll work with Erica, and I'm probably not going to wait till the March meeting. I'll go ahead and send that email to her and see if we can get some folks together for that.
Thank you, Lisa. And again, I know you've been working really hard to get those together, so I appreciate it. I just think that's one area we definitely need to continue not to let get out of our mind too much, as we have a lot going on. But if we could bring some people to the table that could really give us some input on where they, want to go, and how we can best help, in the buildings K through 2, so to speak, those grade levels K through 3.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, guys.
I would actually even say including pre-K in that.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, Rachel. I agree.
Early childhood, including pre-K. All right.
Yep.
I'm next on the agenda. Y'all want me to go ahead?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Granger. You're next up with special ed, followed by health team.
Okay. Well, behind the curtains, there's a lot of balls in the air right now. But first, on February 8th, we met with parents, invited all the parents who are out of district to a parent meeting. We had about 8 come. And basically, it was a casual conversation. We let them know that we're working with Borden Henryville to ensure the students have a smooth transition. Talked a little bit about the survey. The last time I updated you all, only 9 parents have responded to the survey. Now there's 15. I think even without answering that, I think I have a good feel for what's going to happen. We're currently designing and developing classrooms. We talked about that. And then we opened it up to questions. Most of the questions were about transportation. And with that, we're waiting for Borden Henryville to announce what they're going to do, if they're going to offer transportation or not for students out of district. And then a lot of the parents are just, they don't want to make a decision. They want to know what transportation is going to do first, which is understandable. We've been meeting with the architects regularly, and they've been wonderful to work with. They respond to the revisions as we sit and go through the different plans that they've made. They've just been great to work with and very responsive. Currently, I'm generating a list of the needs that that we will have next year, and that's materials for all the classes, equipment for the classrooms, things like that, and just preparing for getting those. In March, we're still planning to assign teachers to their spots depending on where they want to work, what types of classes what class they want to work with next year, and then also hiring if we need to do that. I'm planning activities to help us be a more inclusive district, and that's exciting to me. I really, again, just love this opportunity that the end of the joint services is providing us. So I really want to take the bull by the horn and help us get very inclusive in our schools. And we're still working on I'm still working on developing the special ed committee, but I do plan to have that first meeting in the next couple weeks.
Ms. Granger, thank you. I just have a couple of questions, and I think we can all agree that this is probably the most important item that with the shared services that we can't lose track of. Has any of the architects or anything said in your meetings with them that these rooms that we're building and adding on are the potential for any delays? Are we tight on a schedule? Where do we stand with that?
I believe I have not heard of any delays. I know that every time we meet, we do have some revisions that what we kind of talk about, and maybe I don't think that's causing any delays. I haven't heard of that being an issue, but hopefully we'll be wrapping that up pretty soon.
Hey, Chris, Larry and Amanda are here, and they'll answer that at the next when we turn it over to me. That's actually what they're going to be presenting. Is kind of their what they've been doing, and obviously what the next steps are with the architects and the bidding process. So
Okay.
Save that question.
All right, and I'm with you. I'm very excited about the separation of this, and I can't wait to see the plans for inclusion. I think that is phenomenal, and look forward to seeing it.
Thanks. It's going to be good.
So, Ms. Granger, do you feel comfortable where we're at right now with this transition?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I'm going to work with whatever we have, but we can't. I'm kind of stuck just because I don't know what kids we're going to have back yet, which that influences the numbers and class list and materials and needs and all those things, and it influences the teachers, what classes we're going to be opening, etc. And that is we're really waiting to see what Borden-Henryville does with transportation. That's the feedback I'm getting from parents, is they're really not comfortable with indicating what they want to do yet, which I understand.
Do we know when Borden and Henryville plan to make a decision on that?
I don't know for sure. I think soon.
What's the question that we're waiting on, that they're asking, if that they're going to send buses down into our district, or what's the parents' concerns?
Well, a lot of the a lot of these students their school career has been at Borden. And so there's a lot of anxiety about bringing the kids back. So a lot of parents wish for their child to stay at Borden. But yes, there are transportation issues with that. Some of our parents would have to drive their kids to Borden every day, pick them up every day, and that's a game changer for them. If they're not going to provide transportation, they're going to come with Silver Creek. If they do provide transportation, many of them will keep them at Borden-Henryville.
Well, do you feel that there's still some questions? I know, a month or so ago, some of the enrollment decisions were going to be based on where teachers land. Do you feel that that's still, something that's hanging out there, or has that pretty much subsided?
No, some parents are still saying it depends on what the teachers do.
Okay.
Are we thinking about doing any type of virtual tour for those families too, of the spaces that we have or creating?
Yeah, I think that will definitely be down the road. When we get the classes, I did inform them we have spots, we're developing the classrooms, but I think it would be great if we could, virtual is really cool. I think an open house would be neat, but it may have to be virtual. Yeah.
I agree.
Any other questions, Ms. Granger?
Not a question, but like Chris said, I'm also very excited about how you're working on making this a very inclusive special education department and rooms and such in our school buildings.
I think we're all excited, and we appreciate all your hard work.
Thanks.
Really excited about the committee as well. I think that we've got some really good people behind all these committees, and it's really going to drive home what we're really trying to achieve. So appreciate your hard work.
Thank you. Appreciate your support.
All right. Next up, we have the health team update. Ms. Lyford, are you giving that, or Lisa, are you giving it?
I am.
Yes.
So I'm Candace. I haven't formally met you guys. The first thing I want to say is I'm not going to go over numbers this time at the board meeting, because since school's been out with e-learning, our numbers are grossly skewed. So I'm going to not do that this time at the board meeting. The first thing I want to discuss is we've had some comments or queries, complaints-ish about when we report a positive case, how Infinite Campus has a lag in pushing that information out to parents. And so the health team, specifically Becky, has come up with an idea of a dashboard on our home page that has real-time reporting. So a parent at any time can go to our webpage and click on either the COVID tab, the COVID-19 tab, or the health tab. And as we get positive COVID cases for staff or students, we, as the health team member, can go in and plug that in, and a parent can go in and check that information at any time. And so that will constantly be updated. That will go live tomorrow. So I wanted to announce that tonight at the board meeting. And so that will be a feature. I think that will be nice for parents. So if there's ever a question and they want to just at any time go and look, it will be updated. And as soon as that student or that staff member drops off the list, their isolation period is over, they will be removed from the list. So it will be always updated. And so they, you know, they're even with that lag from Infinite Campus and that push coming out, they can still go and see at any given time how many cases there are at the primary school, how many there are at the elementary school, and so forth and et cetera. And then at the bottom, it'll give a total tally for the entire corporation.
Just to clarify, Candace, what's on the sheet, it doesn't provide specific names of individuals who have tested positive, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
It's
Okay.
just a solid number.
And will it just say staff rather than being specific as such as admin or teacher, something like that? Will it just be very general?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But before we go on to the next time, I do have a question. Jerry's on here. Jerry, can you update us on why there are instances, and as a parent myself, there are times when I don't receive emails maybe till the next day after something was sent out. I also see on social media that, and it's not just with COVID cases, it's with any kind of communication. Is there a reason for that? Is it getting caught up in any kind of spam filters that's not released? What's the reason?
Yeah, so the issue, Chris and everyone, is when you send out either a text message, an email, or whatever, it's being grasped by Infinite Campus, then they send it out through what it's called Mailgun, is a service that they use. And it's two things that are causing it. One is a bottleneck with all this traffic being sent out, and the second is that a lot of carriers or providers, ISPs, will look at that email if it starts pouring into their system and they think it's spam. So then it starts piling up, and then they have to check and confirm whether it's valid or invalid. So that's what the majority of it is. And then the second piece is it's been issues with Infinite Campus with their performance issues. So they've been working on it, but that's that's really the two major reasons why, specifically in the last couple, 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
So, like I said, that will go live tomorrow. So we're pretty excited about that. It looks really nice. And then the next thing I want to discuss, Governor Holcomb and Dr. Yeazel came out, not this past week, but the Thursday before, about a guideline of during the educational day only in certain classroom settings, within 3 feet guideline for no contact tracing. The benefit to this guideline is to decrease the number of quarantines for students. Students are getting quarantined repeatedly, and it's causing them to have academic repercussions. So they've come out with certain guidelines for these students. There are strict guidelines that have to be followed. And I will go over those with you guys. I will say first, before I start, there are strict guidelines. One being that the students have to be at a minimum of 3 feet between each other. They have to be sitting facing forward. They have to have their masks on 100% of the time. And they have to be wearing their mask correctly. There are certain situations in the educational day that this rule does not apply. The lunchroom, because obviously they have to take their masks off. Choir, band, any classroom that they have to take their mask off, this rule does not apply. It will default back to the within 6 feet contact tracing rule. The primary school and the elementary school, they are not. This is an optional guideline set forth by the governor and by Dr. Yazel. And so the primary and elementary schools have decided not to follow this simply because they can't follow the strict guidelines. I know in the elementary school, they eat in their classroom, so they have to take their mask off. So that automatically excludes them from being able to follow those strict guidelines.
Hey, Candace, I'm sorry to interrupt you for a second, but Beth, is there any way Joe got kicked out of the feed, but it's still saying he's logged in? Are you seeing on your side, Beth, that he is still in, or is he out?
Joe is not in the meeting, Chris.
He's not. He's saying that he cannot log out of the meeting to try to log back in. Jerry, is there any way you could call him and try to work him?
Yeah, I'll try to work on it.
You know, Joe's not the most tech savvy to start with.
Yeah, I'll call him.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so with that said, we did. I typed up a letter for my families today to send out tomorrow about these guidelines that spelled out what the minimum was, what the advantage of the within 3 feet no contact tracing rule was, which I think the parents will be pretty excited about, because I know in making phone calls to parents about their student being put in quarantine, I've had lots of parents be disappointed because their student may have come back for 1 day, and then I call 2 days later to put their student in quarantine again. So it's exciting, but it's going to take a lot of teamwork amongst their children, because they are going to have to wear their mask 100% of the time in these classroom settings, and they're going to have to wear them properly, which was discussed in this letter. And I did discuss proper masking techniques in this letter also. So they have to wear their masks snugly around their nose and chin with no large gaps around the side of the face. It has to cover their nose and the mouth. It has to have 2 or 3 layers made of breathable, tightly woven cloth, cotton, or material of that nature, with an inner filter pocket. And so in my letter, I asked that they review these masking guidelines with their students. And like I said, if one student doesn't follow this guideline in class, it immediately excludes everyone in the class from being able to follow within the 3-foot guidelines. It's very, very strict. So I really do want to stress the importance of following these guidelines and parents really going over this with their children, because it really does take the whole class to follow these rules for this to really work for the classroom setting. And like I said, it only applies during the educational day, not on the bus. not during athletic events, not during practice, not during extracurricular activities, just in certain classroom settings. And like I said, it is really written out in the letter that I've typed up for the parents. And I think Becky, because since she's doing it in the middle school too, she has some semblance of a letter going home to her parents too.
Lisa and Candace, to me, this kind of sounds like almost a nightmare to manage. What's the plan to manage this? And I can only imagine there are going to be multiple calls if somebody does get quarantined about they weren't within 3 feet. As far as they know, every child little Johnny told them that every child in the classroom is wearing their mask and wearing it properly. How do we police that?
Do you want to talk, Lisa, or do you want me to?
Well, I'll just say that that most of the health team has visited classrooms all throughout the school, so they have a good handle. Like if a call or a concern comes through, they can check their list even on the weekends and know where this kid was throughout the day and if these rules can apply. So our health team is bending over backwards to try to make this new criteria work so that we can have our kids safely in school and continue to have the appropriate environment for them to not continue to be quarantined. So yes, it's going to be extra work, but the whole year has been extra work, quite honestly. And so the education on the mask wearing is huge here. It's huge in order for this to work. So that's why we're going back over this with the students through the letters. We really want to encourage our parents to go back over this and talk to their children about the importance of this as well, so that we can keep kids safely in school. So Candace, I'll let you take it from there, but I know that those are things that we've talked about collectively as a health team.
From a group, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I did meet with some teachers last week in a meeting, and they had some similar questions. And I told them that I would type this letter up to send home to the parents, because they asked who was going to police this. And when we do the contact tracing process, we send teachers emails, protected under FERPA, saying, we had a positive case in your classroom. Do you feel like you were within this amount of feet of the student and feel like you were a close contact? Well, these new emails going forward will say, do you feel like under the new guidelines that your classroom would fall within the 3 feet rule? And as I discussed with them, I feel like they know there are students who are frequent students who don't follow mask protocol, who are wearing their mask under their nose like they're not supposed to. I can say personally, when I know the students that come in my office, that I'm constantly saying, pull your mask up and whatnot. So like I explained to them, I feel like they probably know by now, but at this time in the school year, who it is that follows mask protocol and who doesn't. And we want to look at this as a positive thing for our students. It's for their benefit, so they don't have to be quarantined as much. And we hope that looking at it more as a positive thing versus being a mask police, that they will be more willing to comply. I know, just for example, one day when I went in to do some contact tracing in a classroom and I had to do some measuring, there was a student that cried when she had to be quarantined because she had been quarantined so much, and her grades were lacking because of that. So I feel like this is a really good thing, and that students are going to be more willing to comply if they know that there's a benefit for it.
And I agree with you. I'm glad. I just want to make sure that we're not burdening our staff with extra work.
Yes, sir.
Make sure that they're not going to have to check every day that little Johnny and Timmy and everybody else have the correct mask on.
Yes, sir.
It just, I mean, to me, it just seems, I applaud you for doing it because I don't know. I mean, it just seems like a lot. But you bring up another, and actually I'll save that for later because that's while similar to on topic, it's not. I'll let you continue. I apologize.
Well, those were the three big things that I want to talk about, that our numbers are skewed, the dashboard, and then the new policy and, wearing proper masks. And like I said, the email would go to the teacher and say, hey, on Friday, do you generally we get our positive results. So-and-so tested positive on Friday. Can you recall if blah, 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 if you had your students were compliant with their mask protocol. If they can't, then we'll have to do the within 6 feet guidelines versus 3. I mean, we always want to err on the side of caution, and that's what we do.
Got it. Tom, Lisa, and Todd, I have a question, and I thought about this yesterday, and when Candace mentioned, we have students that have been quarantined multiple times. I know that if a staff member is quarantined, say for 14 days, they don't have to use their sick time or their banked time for that the first time because they have so many days under the federal guidelines that were sent out. What happens if they get quarantined a second and a third time? Are they still, at any point, do they have to start using their vacation days, or are we covering that?
Well, if they exhausted the 80 hours that were provided under the FFCRA, then they would have to start using their own personal leave time to cover any days that they were out after those first 80 hours were exhausted.
So, Mr. Voigt, my understanding though was after January 1st that there no longer was an FFRCA. Is that correct?
It got extended.
No, it's been company or organizations are allowed to voluntarily extend that through March 31st. It doesn't add additional time to their hours, and that's something that we'd even talked to John Mays about, and we the majority of the school corporations in Indiana elected to follow that guideline where it was extended to March 31st. So we followed suit and have done that as well.
And is that 80 hours per year, or is that just a one-time use, whether it's 2020 or 2021?
It is just a total of 80 hours. What this did was the initial order expired on December 31st, and what this did was extend the length of time to March 31st that people had to utilize those 80 hours. So if somebody utilized those 80 hours, let's say in September of 20, if that person exhausted those then, they would not have them available now.
That's almost a little that's concerning to me. I mean, what if we have let's say a newer teacher who doesn't have banked time with us? They've used they've been quarantined once. They've used that time, and then they've had a student or a peer in their school that they've been identified as a close contact, and now we've sent them home again. What if they don't have those hours to use?
Well, I know the principals try to be as flexible as they can and allow people to telework if it's available for them. The problem is if they're not able to telework, if that's not practical and it doesn't work, and they've exhausted their time and they have no time available to them, for us to pay them just to not be at work, unfortunately, that gets into the realm of ghost employment, and it's a really dangerous ground to tread on, to pay someone who's not performing work and has no leave time accrued to cover that time.
Also,
I can tell you that to this point, we've never had any employee due to a quarantine situation, have to take time off without pay.
Knock on wood.
Yes.
So
But
do
after
we,
an individual gets vaccinated, they are not required, I guess, after their second booster to be quarantined after exposure. Is that right? Candace, you'd be able to answer that.
That's correct. It is for 3 months, though. It is not forever. That is what we learned in our webinar on Friday. After their second dose, they, as long as they don't have symptoms, it's for 90 days. It is not, as of now, the research just shows for 90 days, not beyond that.
But being that most of our teachers probably don't fall into an at-risk or age requirement to be able to have received the vaccinations, they are not getting those currently, which would help the situation.
Probably right now, yes, correct.
so, Mr. Voigt, you had mentioned that this extension only goes till March, which is only a month away. Is there anything in the works to extend that, or are we just waiting on to see if the government extends it?
Yeah, I've not seen anything that would indicate at this point that the federal government is going to extend that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they do, but as of right now, there's not been anything new circulated that would indicate they would either be a new some kind of new guideline or provisions created, but there's the other provision came about in less than 2 weeks, so I wouldn't be surprised if it happens again.
Like an extension to it, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any, excuse me, any other questions for the health team before we move on to finance and operations?
I just had one question. With the updated sheet that you guys are planning on doing, Candace, I was just curious if we felt like this would eliminate our need to send out, text messages, emails, and the posting on our, corporation site. If it can be located in one site for all to access, I think sometimes the multitude of times it goes out, the multitude and timing of when people receive it raises a little bit of over concern, I guess, or confusion as to what the accurate number is. And so with that sheet being uploaded and the information being provided in the manner that you mentioned, Candace, I mean, do we feel that we need to continue to send out the information the ways that we have been?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that we have to send it out like that. It just depends on how successful it is and how responsive parents are to going to that website. I mean, once we get the information out that's there for them to go to, I'm not sure how many parents go to the SCSC.school page.
Yeah, I think most people they're gonna find their text on their phone and emails, and I think the number of people going to the website will be lax thereof versus just getting it from their phone.
Yeah, I mean, we can push that information that it's there. I'm just not for sure how many people will actually go to look at it, but we just wanted to throw that out there because people were kind of complaining, saying, as we're making our phone call saying we have a positive case and your student is a close contact, they're saying, well, why didn't I get this? And why haven't I received the email or the text message yet? And it's because there's a lack from Infinite Campus. Hopefully once that is remedied, so to speak, that will help. But in the meantime, we wanted to have something that they could go to and look at that was real time.
Plus, if you're updated on the webpage and we're getting it, we can't communicate enough. So I think that's a good idea. But I think ultimately, as long as everybody can see it in multitude different areas, I think I'm good with that.
Okay.
Any other questions for the health team? All right, Dr. Brillhart, finance and operations.
Yeah, before we get to that, just to kind of extend a little bit of the items that were discussed. Needless to say, we are not in a position where we're going to try to purposely quarantine any certified or classified staff members if it's not needed. Needless to say, we have to follow local health guidelines, state health guidelines, federal health guidelines to the utmost degree, or else obviously then we would be not doing our job. So, but I think it's a reminder for all of us to simply keep taking the mitigation steps every single day. And for lack of a better term, we can't lay our guard down, because the last thing we want to do is ask a staff member to quarantine who's already exhausted their 80 days of FFCRA. I mean, that's the last thing we want to do. And as Todd said, I mean, obviously we're going to work with that staff member the best we possibly can, because needless to say, we're not playing this game to impact someone's paycheck. That is not what we can do, what we're here for. But at the end of the day, we can't pay someone who's not working either. I mean, that's illegal, so we can't practice that either. So again, it's just a reminder that we have to keep fighting the fight and keep, like I said, taking the correct steps to move forward on an everyday basis. Okay, before we get into finance, I want to second what Ms. Hawkins said and just say thank you to the operations crew for all their hard work, Mr. Boyd's leadership and guidance with helping get the campuses cleared with all the debris and snow and ice and everything's been wonderful. And again, thank you for that. One reminder, we did send this out yesterday. Silver Creek High School was supposed to be on e-learning today and tomorrow for their ISTEP. That has been moved to February 22nd and 23rd. Again, that's been moved to February 22nd and 23rd. And then before we get into the finance report, Larry Temperman and Amanda, I believe, are on here to give us an update on the construction phase of the special ed rooms. So just a kind of a brief synopsis before I turn over to Larry and Amanda. Colbert Hawkins obviously been working hand in hand with us here for the last couple months, trying to come up with specific design for not only the high school remodel, the middle school, the elementary, but also the primary with every respective building, and kind of customizing it obviously to what's needed within each building. Every building's a little bit different, every room's a little bit different. But the goal is, as Larry's probably going to discuss, is we're going to put this out to bid here in the next couple of weeks. We'll receive bids. And then ultimately, probably by early April, of course, we'll have to kind of dance around spring break, but by early April, we should have bids in hand. And so then at the April board meeting, the board will approve a general contractor to come in, obviously do all the work. And then we're slated to try to have work begin hopefully by June 1st. That's what we're hoping for. If school lets out on May 27th, then we'll start on May 28th. I mean, whatever it may be, but June 1st is kind of our turnaround day. So Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you kind of present what you and Amanda have been working on in the Colbert Hawkins team. So without any further ado, you have the floor.
Okay. I'm Larry Temperman, and I have Amanda is going to help with some of the graphics. Are you on board, Amanda?
I'm here.
Okay. I was going to kind of go over the schedule, but I think that's already been reviewed. I submitted that early in January 18th, and we have completed our second design meeting, so we're moving right along. We've already gone ahead and incorporated the input from that meeting. That was when the first series of storms started happening, I think. But things are going quite well. So I thought did you want the cursory review or the more detailed analysis of these? I think
if you can do detailed in less than 5 minutes, eat your heart out, Larry.
I think I'll do a cursory review. So Amanda, what we have, where we have designs for now 8 separate classrooms. And so it's kind of grown a little bit. And so if we could put the first classroom up. Might enlarge it a little bit if you can. There we go. But this is one of 2 special education classrooms at the primary school. This is at utilizing room number 420. What we've been doing, we've been listening and taking input from Kelly, the principals, and the superintendent. And we've also been incorporating any kind of special code elements that come about during our review that relate to special education uses of classrooms. Most of all the classrooms have these little isolation rooms, as you see up in the upper right-hand corner. All of them somewhat have a variation on that. Each isolation room will have padded walls and a padded floor. We'll have a window that's about a 40 by 30-inch glass window in the door, and it's designed so that someone looking into the isolation room there isn't any really hidden spots. The little circle is basically an accessibility, a wheelchair circle, which is a 5-foot turning radius. And then each room also, most of them have another room called a sensory room. So so we've utilized this existing classroom for this purpose. Kelly, did you want to jump in and add any other little nuances?
Well, I was going to say something about the sensory room, but my dogs are barking. Just sensory rooms are really neat for those of you who don't know what they are. They provide an outlet for kids. Sorry. They provide an outlet for students who have that need for sensory input, to get out energy. And one of the greatest benefits of it to me, in my view, is it can prevent a lot of behavior problems. They just have so many benefits to them, and I think we're really fortunate that we get to develop those in the classrooms.
One item about the isolation rooms in general, each door will have an electromagnetic lock, which with a push button, so that it will hold the door locked in place for just only the time that the person is holding that person. And when we do that, we have to submit for every isolation room, we have to submit to the state of Indiana a variance for that room, since in the educational occupancy, you can't really confine anybody. So you have to get a variance of the code to allow that to happen. So that's one thing that everyone needs to know about the isolation room. I think we could probably go to the next one. This was the.
Can I ask a question real quick on the room you're
sure.
on? What's the IDF room that's near it there?
Oh, that's just an existing room for a technology. That's for the whole school. We're focused on just the yellow areas.
Right. I was just thinking about it. Looks like the restroom you all would be utilizing, is this correct, Ms. Granger? Is this one next to the IDF room?
Yeah, we've had a lot of discussion about that particular room. Did you want to make a comment about that, Kelly?
And I missed the question. I was responding to someone's question on my phone. So
Okay.
what was
I think
that?
Rachel. I think
So
Rachel.
I was just curious about, so I noticed that the restroom is right there past the IDF room. Is the IDF room housed with students, or is that adults?
I believe the IDF room was more to, I don't even know what that stands for. That's part of.
Kelly, can I chime in there?
Yeah, I think it's technology.
That stands for intermediate distribution frame. That's where all of our switches and everything are for our network on the back end.
So there's no people. So it freely allows you all to use that restroom right there then. Is that correct, Ms. Granger?
Yeah.
Yes, there's also a restroom, I believe, in this one, and I may be wrong. There's also a restroom right across the hall here too.
Yeah, there's a large restroom facility for male and female right across the hallway. So it's been a lot of discussion. We even looked at making that more accessible to the classroom, but we decided with that particular level of student that it was unnecessary. But also that would keep adding more money to the budget. So we're trying to do our best to be, cost efficient as we can. But they do have restrooms right across the hall. And this particular level there's not such a requirement. Now the next one we're going to show you, it has the restroom renovation. this is down the hall a little ways, and this is still in the primary school. And this is special needs in room 208. And again, it has the isolation room and has all the elements that I discussed before, and a special needs classroom. Here we begin to get in a little bit of a physical therapy. There's going to be like a cubicle curtain for some physical therapy on a 4-by-7-foot table. And then this used to be the music room, and we're going to take a storage area to that was just primarily storage, and we're going to modify that and into a accessible restroom with a changing table and so on. So the requirements in this one are more important to have a built-in restroom. Also, we've kind of cut the classroom about a third to create a sensory room to the left there in the plan. I don't know if Kelly, do you want to chime in?
I think you described it well. Again, I think the sensory rooms are just necessary in both classrooms for behavioral difficulties and these more significant cognitive needs classrooms. And I'm excited to have those. I'm excited to have the cubicle curtain for a little privacy for physical therapy. The restrooms, these are great.
So is the special needs room 207, will it also be a special needs room? Like, are these rooms going to house different types of needs?
Hey, Rachel, this is Abby. This is Abby Campbell. I'm sorry, just to butt into the conversation. Yes, ma'am, the 207 will continue to be a special needs classroom. That is currently our resource classroom. So right now, the model that we have at the primary is the inclusion model, but we don't have students for primarily that require self-contained classrooms. So this room 208 that you're looking at will be a self-contained classroom for our severe and intense needs students that we'll be acquiring as a result of the separation of the special ed agreement. And then the previous classroom to this, which is actually just across the hall from here, the one we just looked at, will also be a self-contained classroom for our ED students that require a self-contained area as well. So we'll still have 207 as our resource classroom because we do use that for small groups of students all throughout the day.
Okay. Yeah, you're speaking my language now, so I understand. Thank you.
No problem.
Do we have any other questions on this room? This takes care of the primary school. Next, we're going to the elementary school, Silver Creek Elementary, and this is again an existing room. It's a room that's kind of looks out onto the interior courtyard area, and the other is a corridor system. And this one was quite a large room. So again, we've implemented some code revisions. If you notice, we're adding a egress door to the upper left corner because the room has gotten so big. Once you figure the occupancy factor, it requires a second means of egress. So, and the big difference between this and the primary school is the primary school has an automatic sprinkler system. This school does not. So here we had to create another means of egress. Again, we're grabbing a hold of I think it's like a storage room now. We're turning it into a sensory room, and then we're creating a PT area with a cubicle curtain area with a table, PT table. And this has already restrooms that we're going to essentially leave alone at this point. This room has a little, down in the lower left-hand corner, has some existing electrical panels that we looked at relocating, but if we relocate them, it would be extremely expensive. So what we're looking at doing is walling that area off and creating a door so people can get into the electrical panels. And then the space next to that will be kind of a calming type of space. I think we have a label there that, so in the upper right, we have Pardon?
Could that door not go out into the hallway versus into that little calming room just in case there's a child in there? We need to have access to that.
There's no door. Are you talking about the para doors? Or the,
Down here at the bottom left-hand corner where you have electrical, and you've got a swing door going into the calming room that comes out of the sensory room, coming out of the special needs room in order to get to that electrical panel.
yeah, that's.
Does it
in order
sound?
to get-
Does it
in
sound?
order to get-
Does
Go
it sound
ahead.
more feasible to me that if you have access to that electrical panel and somebody's in the sensory room and the calming room, that we just add the door to the outside into the corridor?
Well, we could do that. Yeah.
I mean, that, to me, it just sounds more reasonable versus saying,
Okay.
"Hey, we have to get to that panel, and then we have to go through 3 rooms in order to get there."
I think we have a couple little dash elements there. I'm not sure if you see my cursor or not, but I think that's
I think, I think Amanda's
thought.
kind of. I think there she goes.
There we go. Yeah, that's Amanda's cursor there.
I agree, Scott. And then you have the question of whether the door's secure, or what access a child may have to get into the electrical panel.
That's my 100%. That's my concern on that one. There, looking at that drawing, so I
Yeah.
think that would make more sense.
That's the number one thing we're trying to do is prevent access to the panels by the child.
Yeah,
But
and I
think-
just seeing that, I think that would work best for my
yeah,
thought.
that's a good idea.
Thank you.
You get a gold star for that. So, okay. Is there any other questions, Kelly?
I won't charge by that. By the way, it's just free service.
Pardon?
Free advice.
Do you have any thoughts on this, Kelly?
No, I think that's a good call for that exit door if it's if needed into the electrical room. I mean, we could put a lock up high, or I'm sure of course that'll have to be not accessible to the kids in some way. But I think that's,
it'll be completely eliminated at this point, Kelly. I think we just we'll close that door. That'll be a complete solid there, and then electrical access will be through the corridor.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's because it's just for maintenance and access to the panels only. Anyway, that's good.
Right. And this is what we do every time we meet. We keep thinking of these things.
Okay, we have our next design meeting, by the way, is March 8th. So we keep tweaking things. Are there any other questions about the elementary school? I think we can go on to the next one, Amanda. Now this is one of 2 special needs classrooms at the middle school. This is room 207, and it is a little bit, has some different requirements. We have the isolation room again, we have a reset room, and then we have a sensory room that has an existing access to the corridor, and we have a PT table. So this is a little bit different approach. And we had some existing restroom facilities. Do you have any thoughts on this, Kelly? We've been, like I said, incorporating the last comments.
Was this is the new one we talked about last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, that one, we do not need that. Sorry, the cubicle curtain of PT won't go in that room, in the other room.
Okay. We just remove the cubicle curtain on room 207.
Yeah.
Remove the PT table too, of course.
Yeah.
How about anything else?
And then Mr. Ballmer and I we have a plan to get together and walk through that room still too. So I'm sure we'll give you feedback.
Okay. Ready to go to the next one? Tell me if I'm going too fast. This is room 231, and it's at the middle school. It's the other wing. And then does this one, we have a PT physical therapy table and cubicle curtain.
Can you enlarge that a little bit more, please?
Pardon?
I asked him if you can enlarge it. I think there's like 5 faces right in the video monitors I can see. So
there we go. How's that?
Yes, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Kelly, we're keeping the PT screen and table in this one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the other one we overdid a little bit. And then in this one, we did have the isolation room in the upper right. We flip-flopped them, incorporated the sensory room in the upper right-hand corner, and put the isolation room, even though we have to blank off the windows, what we're trying to do is keep it away from other classrooms and the corridors, so that if the person in the isolation room is screaming or yelling, it's more buffered in this position of the room. And so this has a closet. This room had some existing sinks and a stove and dishwasher, and it's a refrigerator, and I think we're keeping all that. Right, Kelly?
Yes. Yeah. Those are perfect for that room.
Are you taking the showers out, or are they staying in there?
We're going to keep them. If we, at least one, I think, is good to have. Should you ever have that need? Sometimes you do.
Yeah, I was wondering. I thought one. I didn't know, because I noticed in the very finite it says investigate shower leak. I'm like, well, you can eliminate one completely shower leak and just dispose of it. Just a thought, but
yeah.
That was just brought to my attention and during this project when we were punching out the.
No, yeah, it's good to talk.
So, Ms. Granger, are the like the stove and all of those items there on the left, is that going to be used for teaching basic life skills?
It could be, yes. Yep. I had a question about the sensory room. Larry, was that door a requirement there to the hall?
No. It was not in other words, for a means of egress?
Yes.
No. It's an existing door to the hallway that we're removing.
Oh, okay. We are removing it. Okay.
Yeah. We've got it dashed in, and it's shown where we've filled in that opening.
Oh, okay. I'm going to get pretty good at this, reading this.
Yeah, you're
eventually.
That's a study architecture there. Is there any other questions about this room? Anyone? We can move on to the high school, or yes, we'll make it larger. This room required some code modifications, and the high school was built in the 60s. The codes have changed substantially since then. But when you make some significant revisions to a room, you have to essentially bring that room up to, and primarily egress up to code. So we're adding another door in the upper right-hand corner for means of egress. Currently, the high school is not sprinkled, so that spacing had to be further apart for the doors for remoteness of the code requirement. And then they had a storage room to the left that we created a wall created a sensory room, and that's where Amanda's pointing out there. And then we have another isolation room, and we have also a PT table for physical therapy. And in the upper left-hand corner, we had some restrooms there, but they were the kind of the 60s version of restrooms where you didn't require any accessibility. So we're modifying that significantly and making it accessible to individuals with disabilities. So Kelly, did you have any? We've incorporated a little revision since the meeting. We did add a washer and dryer create a little laundry area. That was a request.
The other thing that's nice about this is right next to it it's the old home ec where they've got kitchens and stuff. So the kids in this room who, again, Rachel, doing life skills will have access to that right next door.
That's great to hear.
Hey, Larry, I noticed you're moving the radiant heat. Is there sufficient HVAC in there now that we changed some of the units there inside the high school?
Yeah, the last project we have incorporated rooftop units, so that whole system is
It's
null and
obsolete.
void.
Okay.
And so they're planning on, and I've talked to Tom and so on, and we're going to remove that FinTube system, and it's obsolete at this point. And
I just want to make sure they had enough,
when we
heating
did the renovation project for the HVAC system, we had another alternate to remove, like existing equipment, but we decided not, that the school decided not to take that and save that work to be done on a more of a larger renovation of the school. So, but this particular area, I think it needs to come out
I agree.
to update this specific room, and the rest of it can come out later as it's abandoned and drained. Does that answer the question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Do you have anything on this, Kelly, that you want to talk about?
No, looks good.
Okay. And now this room is not technically have anything to do with special education, but it's a room that years ago we partitioned it off for counselors. Now those counselors are moved to the area where the administration services were. So we're going to upgrade this and take those partitions out and add and modify it in such a way where it becomes another classroom again.
I'm really excited to see that our counselors are getting offices, that have windows and just, a normal, typical office for counselors. Do we know yet what this room will turn into?
The plan is a classroom, just another high school classroom. Isn't that correct, Tom?
Yeah, I don't want to speak on Mr. Eckert's behalf, but I believe he was going to move one of his fax teachers from the previous room that you all just saw to that room. That does not require, obviously, kitchen equipment and things like that, more life skills.
Okay. We're ready for the last special education classroom in the high school. This is a work in progress. We've made some modifications. We've incorporated where an isolation room can be and utility kitchen, but I think Kelly and the staff we're still reevaluating how this room might come together.
Yes. And Alan, I think Mr. Eckert and I believe, I don't have my calendar open. We're going to look at this on Wednesday.
Okay, that's good. So that's kind of a cursory review of all the classrooms. Did we have any general questions or? Tom, did we want to talk any about any kind of a FEMA questions on, or is that another category here or subject matter?
Well, we're going to be discussing that during discussion action items. I mean, you're more than welcome to stay on the Google Meet here, Larry, but that we probably won't get to that for about another 10 or 15 minutes.
Well, we'll just Amanda and I will just hang on, and if you have any questions, that we'll be ready to answer them.
Okay, that sounds good. Well, thank you, Larry, and thank you, Amanda. You guys have been working hard at this, and thank you for all the revisions. I know from day one, you guys have moved a lot of walls and a lot of doors and windows and so on and so forth. So thank you all for your hard work.
You're welcome.
So if I may, I'll go ahead and move on with the finance section. So as we said earlier, there was a slight adjustment to the docket again in the amount of $2,340. From a check being voided. So again, not a big change, but in total claims, we had total claims for this month's docket of $1,163,906.60. Total payroll, we ran two payrolls for this docket, $826,687.58. And the total claim docket, again, is $1,988,254.08. Now, a couple of items I do want to bring to the board's attention that are a little awkward. We had 2 monthly payments for Assured Partners on this docket because we got to pay 1 month in the front. So again, obviously we're paying January and February basically on the first docket, if that makes sense. So that won't be consistent moving forward. But again, I just want to make sure you were aware of that. Another thing you may have seen in there, because of the outstanding common school loans between West Clark, which of course are now between Silver Creek and Borden-Henderville, that we are managing, we are maintaining those. We finally got the invoice from Dell for the first year's payment for Borden-Henderville's Chromebooks. Okay, so you probably saw that on there. It was about $113,000. So again, that's money that we pay, and then we'll get reimbursed for it. Okay, so just money in, money out. But again, that will take care of that common school loan. I think it's B0176, I believe. That'll pretty much extinguish that common school loan, and we only have teeny tiny amounts left in two other ones that are still outstanding. So moving on, obviously new budget year. So for the month of January, this is our first monthly monitoring report for the Education and Operations Fund. So for the Education Fund, we had total revenues of $1,567,437.02. Again, this is for the month of January. We had total expenditures of $1,390,376.29 for the Education Fund, leaving us with a total balance in the Education Fund of $4,939,320.11. And in the Operations Fund, please do remember we have not received our first levy yet for Silver Creek Community Schools within the operations. We will not receive that until June, once the first 6 months property taxes are collected by the county. But our revenues for the month total $32,996.81. And then our total expenditures and operations were $509,613.58, which again is technically a little high because of the double payments for. Any questions on any financials? Okay, all right, moving on to the consent agenda. So under finance, we have the same items that we'll have on there now. One thing I do want to bring to the board's attention that we'll do every month, just so you all can see it. We have to make our payment to Humana for our health insurance. We have to make that every 2 weeks. So we just added on A8 approval of Humana insurance expenditures, $270,665.23. So you'll see that every single 2 weeks. Okay, so just so you guys know what that is. Well, you see it every month, but like I said, it's for 2 weeks worth every rolling forward. So and then moving on under certified appointments, we have C.11, technically should be C.12 and C.13. We have no certified resignations. We have under classified appointments C3, we have C3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, and a late item added of 3.8. And under classified resignations, we have C4.1, C4.2, and 4.3. We have no classified terminations. Under ECAs, we have 2 appointments under C6.1 and C6.2. And under leaves and retirements, we have C7.1. And under technology, we have D1, FERPA, Family Educational Rights Privacy Act, is here too by the Silver Creek School Corporation to ensure compliance to answer many questions. Silver Creek School Corporation has policy number PO8330 that can help aid in understanding FERPA compliance. There are also government sites such as those provided by the U.S. Department of Education concerning FERPA compliance. And under E, other, we have E1, Silver Creek Elementary PTO Walkathon Dragon Dash. Monies raised to go towards the PTO's ability to purchase books, outdoor classroom space, sensory activity, minds and motions, etc. E.2, updated facility usage form. Again, this is kind of a carbon copy thing from West Clark to Silver Creek School Corporation. And E.3, HVAC control system contract with Train Technology. Are there any questions about the consent agenda?
I had a question about, is it a typo that Trevor is on there twice, or?
I was going to ask that same question. 3.3 and 3.8.
3.3. Yeah. Todd, do you know the answer to that one under classified appointments under C3?
And C3A.
Oh, I think what happened was he was originally put on the agenda as a substitute, and before he actually started working as a substitute, he applied and was hired for the instructional assistant position. So I think he had already gone through and got his sub permit and all that, and had been added to the agenda. And then, like I said, then he applied for and was hired for the instructional assistant. So it's not a mistake, but he's not going to be subbing now. He's going to be working as instructional assistant.
Okay.
Thank you, Todd. Any other questions about the consent? If not, I would ask the board to make a motion and second and approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, you guys have heard the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion, Chris.
All right, Mr. Basham makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Overberg seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to discussion action items. We have the 2021 R3 resolution opposing the establishment of the Education Savings Account through the Indiana School Boards Association. And if I may, with your permission, I would like to read just kind of the nuts and bolts of this resolution. And if any of the board member wants to extend this, but by all means, please do. So under the R3 resolution, the Indiana General Assembly during its 2021 legislative session is considering House Bill 1005 and other bills that establish the Education Savings Account, ESA, and or expanded vouchers. The board has determined the Indiana General Assembly should not enact the Education Savings Account or expand vouchers and should continue to promote and invest in Indiana public schools. More specifically, to further the public good for public funds should be invested by improving schools designed to serve all children and to aid the improving Indiana public school teachers' salaries and recommended by the Governor's Teacher Compensation Commission in its report in December 14th of 2020. Indiana already has school choice in the form of open enrollment in virtual online schools, and the Choice Scholarship Program. Public schools are overseen by locally elected citizens and are required to operate in an open, transparent way with the expenditures and decision-making. Non-public schools are not held to that public standard, and legislators should reduce the over-regulation of state and federal bureaucracy that hinders the ability of local schools to innovate and responsive to parents and the community needs. So in a nutshell, what the board is opposing here is basically the act of the Indiana legislatures taking dollars from public schools and applying towards charter schools and vouchers. So I know Joe and Chris and I sat in a meeting here this past Friday with a bunch of local legislators. And again, there's a lot of different ways you can look at this, but 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. And you can sit here and say that we've increased funding in public ed over the past, whatever, 5 or 10 years, which we have in this state. But that money for vouchers has to come from somewhere. So if you're not cutting public ed, you're cutting something else. So because at the end of the day, 1 + 1 is always going to equal 2. So again, I applaud the board for taking this action. If any board member would like to expand on this concept, I open up the floor.
Yeah, so I just want to say, when ISBA came out with the state day, is that on my end?
No,
Are y'all
good.
hearing a reverb?
Yeah. No, you're good.
Okay, so I would just like to say when the ISBA came out with a notification of the state day and asked for a legislative liaison and a superintendent and the board president to attend this panel, I was very excited that Chris and yourself, Dr. Brighart, stepped up immediately and joined that session and myself to hear the panelists. And these bills came up, which are very disheartening because they would negatively financially impact not only our school, but all traditional public schools in Indiana, which in turn always, affects the students. And unfortunately, it also has another domino effect of just creating an even deeper level of classism. So, I'm fully, wholeheartedly stand behind this resolution.
And this past Friday, Dr. Brillhart and Mr. Basham and I, when we attended the superintendent's and board meeting with legislation, it is imperative that right now both of these that we're getting ready to vote on, as far as these resolutions, are currently have support in the Indiana legislature. It is imperative that people email their state senator, their state House of Representative member, basically just telling them that they need to really think about this, because every year more and more, the vice president of Greater Clark showed numbers about how, more and more dollars are going into school vouchers, and as Dr. Brillhart said, that's just money that's coming away from public education. So my suggestion is for people to get involved by reaching out, calling, emailing their state legislature to oppose these.
I just want to touch base just on a second what Chris said. It's a lot of truth to that. If people pay attention to what the state does when it comes to budget time, the last few state budgets, they've, in a sense, yes, we do get additional money, but we would get more if they would quit expanding on charter and voucher programs, because we know private schools and charters don't play on the same rules that public schools have to follow. So I would echo what Chris said. Anybody that's listening, if you get the chance and take the time to call your state reps and let them know that these bills aren't in the best benefit of public education.
Just to go along with everybody else, I totally 100% agree with this. Tom, the only thing I would ask is it feasible to maybe put those numbers out for our tax base to reach out to those?
What numbers specifically you're talking about? The proposed budgets for that's.
I think he's talking about the contact information for the district.
Yeah, I can. What I'll do? Why don't we do this? If the board approves this tonight, I'll just I'll put it on our website, and that way, obviously, everybody can see it on our front page exactly what you all approved tonight, and then obviously it'll have the bill number on there, and that way, when they make a phone call to the local rep, they'll be as educated as they need to be, I guess, to make an argument.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Let them know exactly what bill number it is, the phone number to reach out to them. So I appreciate it.
I think we formality is we have to vote on this, but do we have a motion to approve? Discussion item number 1, which is resolution 2021 R-3.
I so move.
I'll second. Ms. Franklin seconds. Any discussion needed? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Dr. Brillhart?
Thank you. All right, moving on to 2021 R4. This is a resolution to prioritize educators for the COVID-19 vaccine. So whereas throughout the pandemic, Indiana public schools have faced unprecedented challenges to maintain high quality and safe instruction, and school corporations need to be able to ensure their students are provided with a safe learning environment, and all educators have gone above and beyond what is required, working to ensure every student receives the instruction and support they need, and many teachers and support staff cannot do their jobs effectively while social distance, and whereas in-person learning has proven to be the best model for students, and a return to in-person learning will be the best way to slow and mitigate learning loss, and the Silver Creek Teachers Association, along with the Silver Creek School Board, believe prioritizing educators in the state's vaccine plan is crucial to providing the best learning environment for students. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that the members of the Silver Creek School Board commit to work alongside with Silver Creek Teachers Associating in urging Governor Eric Holcomb to prioritize teachers and support staff in the state's vaccine plan for the safety of our staff, students, and community. So again, obviously this is a hot topic right now, an imperative topic to ensure that we stay open, we stay functioning, and we stay keep with the ability to provide a good quality education throughout the duration of the 2021 school year. So again, I applaud the board for taking this under advisement. And again, I open up the floor for any comments or questions.
I will say this was the other hot topic of conversation at the meeting Friday. Again, the support right now is for teachers and to still be in that category 1B. And they're not even halfway through 1A yet. So it could still be some time before vaccines are made to teachers. And I think what is pivotal here is that not to bring political party into it, but the majority of the state legislation is in favor of keeping teachers at 1B, but that party also is in favor of making sure that students are in school, which I believe we all are. A large part of that conversation on Friday was that if you want students in buildings, then let's open this vaccine up and make educators and staff members a 1A instead of a 1B. And that's what this resolution is for. One of their comments was that, well, some of your teachers are in that 1A category if they're high risk. That's great that they are, but this needs to be opened up to all educators and operations staff, people that are making these buildings run every day, to be able to keep these schools open.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree with Chris more on that. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Being able to sign this resolution is not, obviously does not change what happens at the legislative level. But as elected officials in this role that we have, it does give us a voice, and it gives the community a voice through us, saying that, our teachers are important. Yes, we also want students in school, and we want our teachers to be able to teach them, safely and to not jeopardize their health.
Yeah, I agree. I think, this just stands behind our stance and always keep our best to keep the kids in the classroom and keeping the teachers safe and the students safe as well. So I applaud us for doing that.
All right. We have a motion to approve discussion item number 2, which is the approval of resolution 2021 R4 to prioritize educators for the COVID-19 vaccine.
That's a move.
Mr. Groen, motions. Do we have a second?
I'll second, Chris.
Mr. Basham seconds. Do we need any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, please proceed, Mr. Brohart.
Thank you. Moving on to action item number 3, the 2021 R5 resolution, letter of intent for the Silver Creek School Corporation FEMA safe room for the Silver Creek main campus and Silver Creek primary campus. Again, all this is a letter of intent. This can be revoked at any time. It can be manipulated at any time. And so I'm going to read both of them, because one is for a letter of intent for the Silver Creek main campus for the board to pursue a FEMA safe room concept on the Silver Creek main campus. And then the other one is for the same idea. Obviously, the scope will look a lot different, but the same idea for the Silver Creek primary campus to help serve and protect our kids and staff at both respective campuses. So again, this will be a little redundant, because thank you for Larry and Covert Hawkins for producing these. We approved the concept of constructing, and again, this may change, 3,200 person capacity FEMA safe room on the Silver Creek High School, middle school, and elementary school campus if awarded a 75-25 matching building resilient infrastructure and communities grant program. In addition, if awarded such a grant for such project, we will use our best efforts to complete the legal process to obtain necessary funding by the issuance of bonds payable from property taxes of the school corporation for up to $50 million. Again, that may change for our part of the project and necessary improvements to Silver Creek School Corporation, provided such funding does not increase the school corporation's debt service fund rate to an amount unacceptable to us, and other projects are not determined by us to be of greater urgency or need in the order of the school corporation to fulfill its obligation to students and community. So again, that's the first resolution. And then obviously a carbon copy of that, again, for Silver Creek Primary Campus. We approved the concept of constructing a 1,000-person capacity FEMA safe room on the primary school campus if awarded a 75-25 matching building resilient infrastructure and communities grant program. In addition, if awarded such a grant for such project, we'll use our best efforts to complete the legal process to obtain the necessary funding by the issuance of bonds payable for the property taxes of the school corporation for up to $50 million for our part of the project. Necessary improvements to Silver Creek School Corporation, provided such funding does not increase the school corporation's debt service fund rate, tax rate to an amount unacceptable to us and other projects not determined to us to be greater urgency or need in order for the school corporation to fulfill its obligations to its students and the community. Larry was kind enough to stay on board, so I'm going to turn it over to Larry for a real brief just description of basically what you're doing and what the next steps potentially would be for the board after stepping up to the plate for the FEMA Safe Room letter of intent. Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
You may be on mute, Larry.
There we go. I was muted. Sorry about that. Well, essentially, this is the very first step of the process. And it essentially what it does, it gets you on the train of getting, a potential grant someday. The part of the issue with the grant at the moment is the county, the Clark County, has to have a hazard mitigation plan, and they have one, but it currently does not include language in it concerning safe rooms. And most of and working with the state's hazard mitigation officer, they're trying to get all the counties in the state of Indiana more up to grade on the getting that certified. So in other words, once, and it's going to be probably somewhere in 2022 before they can renegotiate and get the school system involved in working with the local people in Clark County to create a new hazard mitigation plan. So that's but this letter of intent essentially says to FEMA that, we're interested in constructing 2 safe rooms. So that's all it does. But you can't, and also this letter of intent has to be signed by individuals that have been voted into these positions. I think I'm tiring down tonight for some reason. So, and then once this step, we go beyond this, then we begin to get into writing the application itself. And once we start that, the school system would need to associate with River Hills, which is the grant writer for our Clark County in the area. We're working with her right now on the Salem schools for 2 more safe rooms at Salem schools. So that's kind of what it does. It just says that we're very interested in this process, but it doesn't bind you to do anything at this particular time. But it's a requirement to get on the train. It's a train ticket. So.
Thank you, Larry. Any questions for Larry or any general comments about the letter of intent?
Well, the one thing that I'll say is that Dr. Brillhart, myself, and Ms. Campbell and Mr. Eckert went to Salem. They were kind of the first community around here to adapt this concept. But what I want to make sure we're clear on is that this is no more than a resolution of an intent to start the process. This may not happen. These dollar figures that were thrown around are really no more than what we feel after debt comes off in the next few years, that we can keep the same 2019 tax rate at. But since the process is so long, the thought process is that we now, vote this resolution in to just start the process. And, it's phenomenal to see. I can't even put it into words how you can make classrooms and general purpose rooms into a FEMA approved building. I mean, 18-inch thick walls where we need space and the federal government will pay for us to do so. And so I just think it's important that we go ahead and start the process now.
You are correct, Mr. Roundtree, that this does not tie the board. The details are the devil is not in the details in this letter. All this is like Larry says, it gets you on the train, puts you on up to the plate to swing the bat. That's all it does. And obviously, all those details, I promise you, if the board so sees that the need to pursue this will change. No doubt it will change because obviously design will dictate that. So, but thank you for clarifying that in those comments. Any other questions for Larry or anything from the board? Okay, then I would make the recommendation to approve 2021 R5, sir.
You've heard the recommendation of the interim superintendent. Do we have a motion to approve resolution 2021 R5? This is for the Silver Creek School Corporation FEMA safe room at the SC main campus.
I'll make that motion, Chris.
Mr. Basham makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I heard Ms. Franklin first. So Ms. Franklin seconds. Do a discussion. Open for discussion.
Well, is this only for the main campus?
It is.
One for right now?
We're doing one. We're getting ready to do another one in just a second.
Oh.
This one's just for the main campus.
It's for both.
Getting ahead of you.
There's a separate resolution for both campuses.
Correct. Right. Any other discussion or questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, moving on to action item number 4, which is the approval resolution 2021 R6, which is the preliminary determination for 1028 hearing on a FEMA safe room at the Silver Creek Primary School. Oh, I'm sorry. Dr. Brillard, that's not correct, is it?
No, it's okay. If you honestly, the resolution is for both letters of intent, but honestly, it's probably better if you guys.
Okay, I'm sorry. I guess I missed that.
It's all good. It's probably better if you all do vote on them separately. So you just voted on the Silver Creek main campus. So we'll just carbon copy that, obviously, for the primary campus. So, so my recommendation to the board is to approve no, because like I said, the letter of intent, they're pretty much they're the same thing. So we can keep them the same resolution. They're just 2 letters. So, but like I said, you all can go ahead and vote on the primary campus too, just as a formality. That's perfectly fine.
Again, my apologies. I misunderstood.
All good. All good.
Do we have a motion to approve for the primary?
I'll make that motion.
All right. Mr. Groen makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Overberg seconds. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, number 4.
All right,
Hart.
Okay. All right. And last but not certainly least is the 2021 R6 resolution, the preliminarily approving project setting dates for preliminary determination hearings for the 1028 hearing, authorizing reimbursement of expenses from bond proceeds, authorizing appointment of appraisers, and authorizing formation of building corporation. So in a nutshell, basically what the board is approving is nothing more, nothing less than authorizing us to send notices to the News and Tribune to advertise the 1028 hearings, which the first hearing will be on March the 8th at Silver Creek High School. And then the next hearing will be on March 15th at Silver Creek High School. The 15th board meeting was already scheduled at Silver Creek High School, so we just figured for simplicity purposes, not to confuse people, we would just make both of these hearings at 6:30 on the 8th and also on the 15th. And then we'll have our regular meeting, 5 minutes after the hearing on the 15th, just for simplicity purposes. So that is what you're approving. Now, as we discussed with the board before, one of the other items that we have to do is we have to basically build a Silver Creek Holding Corporation from scratch, which we can do that here in the next handful of weeks. So this resolution is authorizing us to do that as well, start that process. So what will happen is that holding corporation board, which will be independent from the Silver Creek board, will formulate. It'll be recognized by the Treasurer's Department up at the state level. And then obviously once we get to the point where we're actually talking about bond sales and so on and so forth, both Holding Corp and Silver Creek board will work hand in hand, just like we did a year and a half ago with the West Clark board and the West Clark Holding Corp board. So, but if I may, I'm going to read just the main gist paragraph for Resolution 2021 R6, which is basically just a general description of what the hearings are going to be focused on. So whereas the project consists of the planning, designing, and construction of improvements to the Silver Creek High School, including but not limited to the addition of classroom, science labs, auditorium, music, art suite, computer graphics studio, flexible learning space, media center, kitchen prep area, cafeteria dining, circulation walls, and related improvements, general renovations and main gym renovations, radio, TV, broadcast center, music production studio, field house, outdoor improvements such as athletic facility improvements, new transportation service building, new administration building, new storage building, parking, paving, fencing, sidewalk improvements, parking area expansion, furniture and equipment in the connection with the improvements, seating desk, tables, and all related improvements in connection therewith. Silver Creek Middle School, including but not limited to additions of classroom equipment, window and floor replacements, and all other improvements in connection therewith. Silver Creek Elementary School improvements, including but not limited to playground, landscaping, window replacement, wall covering improvements, and all related improvements. And Silver Creek Primary School improvements, including but not limited to, in addition to classrooms, equipment, and landscaping, and all related improvements collectively the project. So again, I don't want to get too lost in the weeds on those semantics, but basically, as you can see, it's a plethora of items that are being considered for this potential 1028 hearing. And again, that will change, I promise everyone, and it should change because obviously it needs to get more specific. But it's good to keep it very, very broad because again, it gives you flexibility now and into the future. So the key word is all related improvements. So that's kind of broad, and it should remain broad. So again, the board, all you're doing is just basically passing a resolution to authorize me to send notices to the News and Tribune tomorrow. So those notices, I believe we're going to try. I hope the weather hasn't impacted this, but I believe the first notice will be posted in the News and Tribune this Friday. That's what we're going to shoot for. So again, I can't promise that because I'm not in control of that, but that's what we're going to aim for. Any questions?
Now, in addition to the News and Tribune, does it need to go out to the other news outlets?
No, you only have to put it in the newspaper that serves your area, of which you guys approved that at your first January board meeting.
News and Tribune is our publication of record, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I was thinking to the news channels or something, but
no,
maybe
no, ma'am. No, by statute you do not have to. So, and it's kind of weird. You only have to recognize one local newspaper. So, like Courier Journal that's not centered here in Clark County. So obviously News and Tribune is. So that's the one obviously we approved back in January. So that's the one we utilize for all notifications.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And again, just to reiterate, as Dr. Brillhart said, this is a broad net, I guess you would say, of that we're casting out just to start the process. It's going to change, as we set forth what the budget is to keep taxes in line with what people are used to, as debt falls off. But again, this is, we want to make haste slowly, but in the process, we want to go ahead and move and start the processes and procedures to get moving with the needs that we know our campuses have. So with that, do we have a motion to approve Resolution 2021 R-6 for the 1028 hearing at Silver Creek School Corporation.
I'll make that motion.
Ms. Franklin makes the motion. We have a second.
I'll second, Chris.
Mr. Basham seconds. Do we have any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, if we'll just move to community input. Again, if our community's here, they want to address the board, you could do so by pressing the button there that says raise hands. We have Beth that would be on the timer, and basically it'd be a first in, first speak type situation. Dr. Brillhart, do you want to add anything to that before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll conduct this virtually, but Beth, I know you're kind of behind the scenes here, but if anybody does need their mic unmuted, or like Chris said, needs to raise their hand to provide community input, by board policy, you'll have 3 minutes. State your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to start and end. So we shall open that up for community input if anybody is needing to conduct. I think that is a no, Mr. President. So I would ask the board to move for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:26 p.m.?
Also move, Chris.
Mr. Basham makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Groen seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, everybody